TJ the Wheel Deal coming at you live. It is Sunday, May the 4th, 12:51 p.m. Central Time, Texas time. I'm reading a comment from one of the members. You guys are crazy. You guys are absolutely crazy. So, anyway, let's get into it, guys. I like to use Saturdays and Sundays when I've got a little bit of free time. And I like to kind of like game plan the week. Like what's going on with the market, from a macro perspective. And then I look at the portfolio and I look at it really slowly. Like I'm like, okay, like what I like about the positions, what don't I like about the positions, the whole thing. The whole thing. I think that the easiest time to manage the portfolio is when the numbers aren't moving, if that makes sense. You don't have any pressure in the market, right? You can just look at it, cool, calm, collected, kind of gather your thoughts and be like, okay, I like that position. I don't like that position. Why do you like that position? Why don't you like that position? What makes you comfortable? What makes you uncomfortable? What are all the gimmies and the gotchas, if you will? So anyway, I got the little deal there. The little, if you want to click, anybody wants to join, ask me some live Q&A, whatever, just shoot the proverbial shit, if you will. It's not going to be very structured today. Just kind of killing time. The wife is barely getting out of the shower, in the shower. I don't know what the hell she's got going on the other side of the house. I feel like she's going to put me on doggy daycare duty while she goes and runs errands later. My dad's out of town, so I don't have to tend to him. I got a whole lot to do aside from workout later. So I've got workout clothes on. So that's it. So like my big event today is, I'm going to go to the garage gym. That's it. So anyway, real quick rant. So 2 days of boxing absolutely sucked. It was so disappointing. I feel like boxing is dying, guys. It's dying. And it's one of my favorite sports. So it really, really sucks. The fights were just not entertaining. So disappointing. What's going on, Manesh? What's going on, Larmo, Alan, Steven, G-Man, pun intended, Johnny, John. What's going on, Mark? Yeah, maybe that one will be good. We'll see. He got dropped, so I think, in his last fight. So he's allegedly, the world's pound for pound fighter. I think it's Crawford personally, even though Crawford didn't look that good in his last outing either. So I don't even know how excited I am. I don't even know how excited I am for Canelo and Crawford. I feel like this should have happened a year ago. Then it would have been really fun. But it's kind of like when Mayweather fought Pacquiao. I feel like Mayweather kind of waited for the right time because Pacquiao was really slowing down. He was like, oh, I could definitely beat him now. But he wasn't willing to fight him whenever. I mean, granted, there was the allegations of steroids and all that stuff. But that aside, I think if that fight had happened 2 or 3 years earlier between Mayweather and Pacquiao, it would have been a much more entertaining fight. I still think Mayweather probably wins, but it would have been a lot more entertaining. And that's what sucks about boxing is like they wait way too long to fight each other, whereas in the UFC, you have a much better chance of getting people to fight each other in their primes because the loss doesn't really derail your career as much in the UFC as it does in boxing. So we'll talk about it when I pull up the portfolio. I do have a strategy going on, a short strangle with the hams right now. So we'll talk about that. I applied for options trading at Vanguard. Hopefully get approved this coming week. Right on. Maybe very, very limited. Vanguard is very, very limited brokerage. So let's look at the portfolio. We'll look at it slowly. I appreciate you guys rocking with me. 252 on X, 32 people live on YouTube. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. You guys are in for a treat today. The portfolio looks drastically different today. We'll definitely feature TSLA. It's the biggest position, so we'll talk about that one. Appreciate you, Midwest. So yeah, if y'all can smash the like, the whole thing. We just crossed over 9,000 subscribers on YouTube, so pretty awesome. So anyway, let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it. So you guys should be able to see the portfolio there, and I've got the TV on watching this stream. It's about a 5-second lag, but I can see that you guys can see the portfolio. So that part's really cool. Now, what sucks though is I do see the comments on the screen, and that sucks because I feel like it takes away what I'm trying to show you guys here. So, it's one of those things. I don't know how to hide those comments. So that's something I'll work on for a future stream. But anyway, let's get into it. So we're going to just focus on the big one. So what do we got here with Amazon? So the way that you read this thing is Amazon here is going to give you the last price, the trade price, the market price, extrinsic value, extrinsic rate of return, profit and loss for the day, profit and loss open, profit and loss percentage, days open, days to expiration, there's any earnings, capital requirements, profit and loss year to date. So I'm going to go real slowly today so that you guys can really see what's going on. So you're going to notice there that I highlighted 10,000 shares. Why? Because there's 10,000 shares owned on Amazon at a price of $203.15. Amazon closed at $189.93. So profit and loss for the day was negative, and P&L open is 132,000 on the shares are down 6.5%. So that's what's going on with Amazon. But now you're going to see that I got a covered strangle going on Amazon. I've got an agreement to buy 10,000 more shares at 175, and I've got an agreement to sell the 10,000 shares at 205. So I've created a sweet spot scenario, a Goldilocks scenario, whereby if Amazon is trading between 175.01 and 204.99 on June the 20th, I essentially make about $66,000. That's the extrinsic value right there, right? 34.5 and 32.5. If Amazon dips below, well, I'm contractually obligated, if I choose not to roll, to buy an additional 10,000 shares of Amazon at $175, which would be $1.75 million worth of Amazon. On the other side of the coin, if Amazon goes north of $205, they would take the 10,000 shares and put $2.05 million into the account. And we no longer have Amazon. And then we can decide if we just want to sell cash secured puts again, or do a short strangle at that point and sell the 195 and the 220 or something like that, depending on where Amazon's at. And I can still bring in a similar type of return without actually having to own those shares. So that's why a lot of people argue on these platforms that owning shares isn't necessarily capital efficient if you're willing to run the short strangle. But the short strangle requires capital. It requires the right mindset, the right mind capital, the right temperament, and you need to have the right time. You need to have the time available to manage these positions. So I'm trying to sell, 45, 60 days out, and then managing, about 21, 30 days out. That way I constantly have plenty of extrinsic value. And then the whole idea that I'm trying to do with the strangle is I want to roll and I want to expand. So right here we have $30, right? We have the 175 put and the 205 call. So that's $30 wide. So eventually I like to be at like $40 to $50 wide, because the wider the gap is, the easier it is for the share price to drive through there in the sweet spot, if that makes sense. So that's essentially the way that I look at it, is I look at it like a highway. You start out pretty narrow, and then depending on how the car is driving or the share price is moving, you're going to adjust your guardrails, if you will. So if the stock price is going up, you're going to shift everything up. The strike price is up on the puts of the calls. If the stock is going down, well, I'm gonna roll everything down. I'm gonna roll the calls down and I'm gonna roll the puts down. And you're essentially rolling the winning side of the trade to finance the side of the trade that isn't winning, if that makes sense. So it's really not as hard to manage as you think. There's a lot more people that dramatize it, but the reality is that it isn't as hard to manage as people think. I'm just checking in real quickly to make sure nobody's waiting in the background. But if anybody does get into the background because you want to join the stream, you have to just type it on the comments and say, "Hey, I'm waiting in the back." That way, I don't have to go back and forth. So anyway, let's keep going. Clean Spark. What's going on with Clean Spark? When you see like Amazon here, it says shares 10,000, and then I have a put and a call on. That's called a covered strangle. On Clean Spark, you will see that there's no shares owned. So that is called a short strangle. So that's whenever you sell a short put and a short call for the same expiration date, but you don't own any shares. So nothing's covered. And technically, it's not even a cash secured put because we have portfolio margin. But it's a short put. But obviously, you know that you gotta make good if Clean Spark dips below $8. I gotta be ready. Gotta be ready with $1.6 million. So it's a serious commitment. And then what's the danger on selling the short call? You don't own the shares. So if this thing were to moon to like 15, $16, let's talk about that. What's the course of action? One, you just buy the shares, turn it into a covered position. That's one option, very expensive option. The other option is you can roll everything up. I could roll the $8 puts for like 12 and 13, pick up all of that cash, and then I can use that to finance rolling the cover calls up from like 11 to 14, 15, or 16 to get a little bit closer. That way, in case if something were to get exercised, I'm picking up a lot more money. So those are the ways to manage it. Again, it's like the stock shoots up, you roll everything up. You roll both sides up. The 8 and 11, I'll roll both of them up to collect some credits. Rolling the eights to finance the debits, because more than likely I would have to roll up for a debit on the call side of things, on the short call, the quote unquote cover call, which is really uncovered. So that's how you manage it. If you want to stay in the same expiration, if you want to move to a different cycle, then what you can do is you can roll out and up, and then now you're probably going to get credits on both sides, depending on how much time you're willing to add to the option itself. But because it's less capital intensive, a lot of people like to do it, because if you look here on Amazon, the one thing that I didn't point out is the capital requirement is 740,000. So I've got an agreement to buy $1.75 million worth of Amazon, and it's only requiring $740,000 in collateral. Why? Because we also have an agreement to sell the shares at 205. So selling strangles is more capital efficient than just selling the one leg, which would be the cash secured put, because then it would require $1.75 million in collateral. Same thing on Clean Spark. Got an agreement to buy $1.6 million worth of Clean Spark, but you'll see that the capital requirement is only $895,000. Why? Because I'm also selling the other side. So it takes that into consideration. In phase, same thing, short strangle. Why? Because you notice that there's no share zone there. So I have an agreement to buy some shares via cash secured put at 45, and it's kind of hugging that one already. And then I've got an agreement to sell shares at 55. So obviously the $55 ones are not at risk at all. The $45 ones are at risk. So that's something that I have to manage. But again, this doesn't expire for another 47 days. You'll see there are 47D. That's 47 days to expiration. HIMS. This is one that I've already been managing. And this is for July the 18th. So I already got 75 days left on the clock here. And I've got 35 on the put side and 42 on the call side. Obviously, HIMS has been squeezing a little bit. So the game plan there is just to roll up. I don't want to roll out anymore. So if HIMS get out of hand, I'm just going to roll the 35s to like 45 or 50. And I'll use all of those credits to finance the debit for the 42 to take that to 50 or 60, whatever needs to happen. And you lose a little bit of money along the way, so be it. But I've got, quite a bit of extrinsic value there, 22,000 on the put side, 37,000 on the call side. So collected some credits along the way, but I am down on the rolls right now. So if I were to close everything down, because I'm just like, I don't want to do it no more, I'm looking at a $20,000 loss there. So I don't want to do that. So eventually I want to roll and I want to expand. That's the goal. So I'm hoping that I don't have to go higher than 40 on the cash put side. And ideally, I would like HIMS to stay flat or maybe trade a little bit lower, but it may go to 60. It may go to 65, but I don't think it'll stay there. I think that'll just be a technical issue. So I'll just manage it accordingly. So the idea is I'll have to roll up and then potentially roll back down. But keep in mind, every time you roll, there's fees involved, right? Nothing's free. So you don't want to have to overmanage these because then you can fee yourself to death, if that makes sense. So that's how I'm playing HIMS. Good, same thing, another short strangle. The short puts are at $40 and the short calls are at 55, and it's kind of right in the middle at 48.59. So this is the Goldilocks situation right now, and it's 47 days out. Earnings are behind us. This is an ideal situation where I could just kind of chill out and collect that $19,000 in extrinsic value that is on the clock right there, just by waiting. And I'm already up $6,000 on the tradable index at stage left. So that one's going really, really well. Let's look at Marathon. What's going on with Marathon? Again, there's no shares owed. There was at one time, but I sold them. And I've got the short puts at 12, and I got the short calls at 15. Notice I'm saying short puts and not cash secured puts. And short calls versus covered calls. Why? Because there's no calls that are owned. So I just want to be more precise on the terminology today, if that makes sense. Got $47,000 of extrinsic value, up 35,000 year to date on the position. Why? Because we own some shares on Marathon, sold those for a profit. So we realized some nice wins along the way already. We got a little bit of a sweet spot there, not real wide, but we're going to try to roll and expand. So whenever I say roll and expand, is I intend on being in these trades for 6 months, 12 months, maybe even 2 or 3 years. If I can just keep collecting credits and expanding, and eventually I'll have it wide enough and the stock settles down and it'll just be able to go through it, kind of like creating like a little Bollinger Band, if you will. You have the top and then you got the bottom, and you want the share price to go right through the middle so you can realize that huge win, take those positions off, kind of minimize everything in the portfolio. NVIDIA, again, short strangle. Why? Because you don't own any shares yet. So we got the short puts at 100, and we've got the short calls at 120, 47 days out, and it's at 114. So we're sitting pretty good. Palantir, this is another one that I've managed for a little while. In a little bit, I'll put this on order chain, and you'll see that I've really had to manage because it'll show you how many rolls are involved and stuff like that. But Palantir is at 115 and 130. I started out at like 70 on the put side, but I've had to keep rolling up and up and up and up. And same thing on the calls because Palantir just started going parabolic again. So I've just been following it up, down a little bit collectively right now, but we have about 63,000. We have 63,800 in extrinsic value. So if Palantir would just chill out and go sideways from here for the next, 60 days or so, then we'd be in a position to realize that whole win. If I have to keep rolling, expanding, managing, it could take 6 months. It could take a year before I can finally realize that win. But as long as I'm collecting credits along the way, it's no big deal because it's only $205,000 in capital required. So I like it. But it's just whenever you're doing these short strangles, though, you need to make sure you have plenty of buying power because depending on whether or not these trades are going for you or against you, it's going to tap into your options buying power. You guys can see that we have 1.627 in options buying power. So that could fluctuate really, really quickly. And that forces you into managing these positions so you can free up that buying power. So there's a lot of gimmies and gotchas here, guys. There's a lot of nuances. So this situation isn't for everybody. Riot. Y'all are going to notice something drastically different on Riot. There's no more shares owned. I took the opportunity when it bounced up to 851. That was our acquisition price for the 150,000 shares, and I sold the shares. I ended up selling them at like 848 collectively. Some sold at 851, some sold at like 847, 848. That was the average. So I lost like 2 or 3 pennies on 150,000 shares. and I got into a short strength cap. The short puts are at 7 and the short calls are at 10. Why? Because it's not capital efficient to own shares. But what I do want to do that's going to be a little bit different than everything else is I want to buy some leaps on Right. And I'm looking to start out with 500 leaps, and I'll look to do that on Monday. I'm hoping that Riot opens red because then I'll get better value. And I'm going to buy out of the money leaves probably at 10. And that's also going to give me more freedom in case these short calls were to go against me. Well, I know that that means that the leaves would be printing money as well. And that's ideal the way that I would want to set them up on all of those positions. But if I'm not really willing to be long in these positions and it's just a trade, then I'm not going to set it up that way. But on Riot, I know that I'm going to be in this stock in one way, shape, or form for the next 3 to 5 years. So I want to have that long call on there as protection. SoFi, what's going on with SoFi? This one's already set up that way. I'm running the short strangle, kind of, but this is a different expiration date. So I've got the short calls at 15, 47 days out. Those are doing okay. And then I've got the backstop trades, the short puts, 257 days out. Those are doing okay. And then I've got the leaps. Those are doing okay as well. So collectively up $250,000 on the position, and there's $120,000 of extrinsic value. It's not bad. Not bad. Tesla, bigger position. Give me guys 1 second. I'm going to go blow my nose. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Much better. I had used some Vicks Vapor Rub, and whew, my nose has been stopped up, and now I feel so much better. So much better. Anyway, let's keep it going. So I think we were on Tesla. So what's going on with Tesla? This is the largest position in the portfolio between Tesla and TSOL, and that's the way that I wanted it. So extrinsic value is 1.668. So a lot of money there, down $377,000 year to date. You guys will remember at one point, this thing was down over $1 million. So this is working. This is working. A couple more cycles of rolling, expanding, managing, be it break even on Tesla for the year, which is great. So there's 6,500 shares owned, so up $170,000 in the shares. That part's really good. Now I've got 35 cash secured puts at 250, 75 days out. And then I've got 315 short calls. 65 of those are covered. The other 250 are not. For July the 18th as well. And then I've got the backstop trade of 500 short puts or cash secured puts at 200, 257 days out. And those are doing very well also. So what I'm looking to do is I want to keep this 500 cash secured puts there in the distance. And eventually I'm just rolling these short calls. And I want to match them up eventually in January. And I'm looking for at least a $400 strike price on the short call side, preferably 450 if I can just wait this out long enough. If Tesla cooperates and doesn't like shoot up to the moon, it kind of goes down, is actually good for me. And just wait, at least another month or so, and then kick everything out, collect some of that theta, the extrinsic value, And then I can really expand it and have a $400 or $250 wide, short strangle. That is what I'm looking for. And I'll be able to add I'll be able to add additional calls, because I'd be able to add an additional 250 calls, or not 250 because I just did 35. So an additional 215 short calls as well. So I'll be able to bring in a lot more money there. And that is why I chose to sell the shares of Riot. And I'm going to play it a little bit differently, kind of the way that I'm playing SoFi. The Riot position is going to look very similar to SoFi, is because I needed to make sure that I had all that collateral available so that I could sell more short calls, because I'm talking about doing another 215 short calls. So we just kind of do that and play with that idea right now. Let's see, I wanted to match this up right over here. Right here, I want to match it up and do another 215. You guys can see that the buying power is reduced by 1.147. Got options buying power of 1.6. So I'm able to do that now and bring in a cool $500,000 in premiums. Keep that in mind. So that is definitely something that I want to do. I got $750,000 more dollars that is going to be shot over. 250,000 went over last week on Friday. You'll see it right there towards the top. 250 grand. So we'll shoot over another 250 grand. So once we get to, because that's the max that you can do, I believe, unless we talk to them. So there's $750,000 more that's going over there in the near future. So once that happens, then I'll be in a position to sell the additional short calls to match up the short puts. So essentially I want 500 and 500. So and then I've got the 65 short calls, or the covered calls, if you will. So I want to have 65 covered calls, then match the 6,500 shares. And then I want to be running a short strangle with 500 cash secured puts over here, the 500 short puts, and I want to have the 500 short calls all for January. So that's what I'm building towards. And then I want to just keep doing this, like literally like rolling it out 90 days, 180 days at a time. So this isn't anything that I'm going to be trading actively, but I want to have it wide, like 250 is the goal. So if Tesla shoots up, roll everything up. If Tesla drops down, roll everything down and collect a shitload of credits. And obviously, I wouldn't be that excited to take ownership of 50,000 shares of Tesla at 200, because that would require $10 million. But if Tesla were to somehow crash to like 150, we'll find the money. We'll find the money, because I'm like, I'd love to take ownership at 150 and just ride the shares back up to 200 and get out of there. Nice, huge swing trade. That is definitely something that I would entertain. So we'll see. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to position the portfolio to have that opportunity. TSOL, this was the insurance policy that essentially I purchased to be able to do this craziness that you see there with Tesla. As I bought the 50,000 shares at 755. They're currently going for 1057, so up 151,000 on those. And I've got those shares for sale at 1050 next Friday. Collected $7,000 in premium, then collected another 22,000 on the roll. So that part's doing pretty good. And then I've got the short strength, 500 short puts at 7.7, 47 days out, and 500 short calls, 47 days out at 10.7. So again, TSLA shoots up, I'll roll the 7.7s up, the 10.7s up. If TSOL gaps down, I'll roll the 10.7s down and the 7.7s down. So you're just playing a game of seesaw. That's it. You're just playing a game of seesaw. It's really not that complicated. if you stay organized. But if you put too many positions on and too many positions go against you and you don't have enough capital because your options buying power is just getting hammered and hammered and hammered, you spread yourself too thin, you're not going to be able to rescue all the soldiers. You're not going to be able to run a bunch of rescue missions. That's where you can get in trouble. So you got to really be familiar with your sizing. You got to be really familiar with how much you can handle managing. Like you got to know you got to know your parameters, right? You got to know your limitations, if you will. So I'm learning mine, and I feel like I am absolutely at the max. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's the max. I'd be more comfortable with 10. So I'm looking at, I have Clean Spark, I have Marathon, and I have Riot. Those 3 are in the same space, so it wouldn't hurt my feelings if Clean Spark or Marathon were no longer there. So that would bring me down to 11. And then I've got HIMS, Hood, NVIDIA, Palantir. Those are the other short strangles, right? Enphase. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if one of those was no longer there, whether it be Enphase, Hood. I'm really wanting to keep NVIDIA in there, but I'd like to, right now there's only 25 contracts. I like to maybe increase that to 100 contracts eventually. But I want to widen it. I want to be really, I prefer to be at 90 and like 130. That would be very, very comfortable there on the strangle. But, you got to build up to these things. So I think by December, I'll have my 10, that I'm running the short strangles on, if you will. And then the way that it's shaping up, guys, is I want to keep those 10,000 shares of Amazon. If they get called away, then I'll keep the short strangles on. And I want to build the Tesla position to 10,000 shares. That's what I'm looking to do. That's why I put these 35 cash secured puts right here. Not that I really want to get assigned at 250, but I kind of be okay in like the 230 range just to get the shares already and call life good, because I think this thing's going up and to the right eventually. I don't know when. So I'm like, just give me the damn shares, that kind of thing. So, and then there is a world where I'd probably be okay getting up to 100,000 shares of TSOL, but I'd like for TSOL to dip under the 9s again. And if that happens, then I'd like to go ahead and buy more insurance and scoop up another 50,000 shares of TSLL. And to me, that's just better than buying like puts or whatever, because all those things expire, or even buying leaps because those things expire. I'd rather just buy the shares on the 2 times leverage, and I can sell calls against it and bring in a shitload of premiums. There's even a small dividend and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it's all shaking out, guys, in a nutshell. And I feel pretty good about it. Pretty good about it. Let me catch up with you guys, see if there's any Q&A that I may have missed. Where are we at here? Strategy on HIMS. I think I covered that one. Steven, hey, what's going on? I appreciate the 898 that saw the link on X, and the 66 people rocking with me live here on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. What's hard to watch? What are your thoughts on Tesla? I think that Tesla will be the largest company in history by 2030. I think there's going to be a lot of turbulence on that flight, though. So it's not going to be just all whistle and Dixie. Question, why on earth is SoFi not making the upper end of the Bollinger Band first near resistance level? I think there's a lot of people that feel, and I'm kind of included, that until the tech platform performs, they're just not going to get any type of hybrid multiple. And I understand lending platform, and it's like, oh, it's however they can get earnings per share. It doesn't really matter. I think that Anthony Noto kind of put themselves in a corner whenever he called it the AWS of fintech, and they're holding his feet to the fire on it. I don't know, but I got the 3,000 leaps there that says I wanted to go up and to the right. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Anthony Noto. I'm a fan of management. I think they're going to get it done. I think it's going to take time. So you got to be real patient. You're going to have to earn that win. So I like Palantir. Palantir wasn't smooth sailing. Now I know it's great and it looks very meme stockish and whatnot, but we earned that win on Palantir, right? I had a real big win on Palantir, and now I'm back in it, and I feel like I can make $15,000 a month doing short strangles on Palantir. It's a lot less stressful than managing cover calls. Mike K, congratulations, Midwest. Boxing has been dead. Yeah, agreed. Hey, what's going on? Him's up a lot. Yeah, like 40% or something like that. So we'll see. But there's a lot of short interest on him. So wouldn't be surprised to see a 50 handle on him pretty quickly. Let's strangle rocks. What's good, fam? I'll be doing some cash cripples also. Right on. What's going on, Will? What's the feeling on where the market heads from here? I think that there's going to be a little sideways action. We're going to get a CPI report at some point. We're going to get the Fed either cuts or doesn't cut. If he cuts, I think the market goes to all-time highs. If he doesn't, it probably dips a little bit, and then the dip gets bought up, and we just kind of go sideways. Those are kind of my thoughts. Like earnings have generally been good, yes, but there's no tariffs yet. There's no tariffs priced into those earnings. So I think it's more so about guidance right now or earnings. Excuse me. What's up, baby doll? Yes, what's up? Right. Think that in tweets from Trump, right? I think we need deals. Though. Sometimes I choose X, sometimes I choose YouTube. It's all about convenience, right on. What do you think about Palantir next week? I don't really think about Palantir too much. I think it's extremely overvalued. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, but I'm just more like, how can I make money off Palantir? I've already made $500,000. Now I want to make another $500,000. You know what I mean? But I want to do it with short strangles. I don't want to own the damn shares unless it goes back to 50. So I don't think it's ever going to go back to 50. So I'll probably never own shares again of Palantir. That doesn't mean that I won't make money off of it. So there's a big difference there. Why did you change from Robinhood? They kicked us off the platform. Thoughts on Palantir, and I'm glad they did because now we're making a lot more money on Tasty Trade. Thoughts on Palantir earnings? I did that one here. Palantir, they're going 145 or 95, depending on her. It could very well be. I'm not sure. What do you think of HIMS? I think it's growing like crazy. Again, it's not anything that I really want to own shares in. It's just something that I'm kind of familiar with, and I feel like I can make money with short strangle eventually. Now, keep in mind, there's going to be situations in the short strangle where you're going to see me negative for 6 months probably. And then eventually I'll widen the gap long enough. The stock settles down. It goes right through my little channel. All that extrinsic value comes off the books, and boom, I booked the win. So it's going to take a while, and I'm okay with it because it doesn't take as much capital. It doesn't take as much capital, so it's all good. Nuts, I'm late. Didn't know you were on. Yay. What do you suggest for people that don't like to manage options at option? What strategy for 6 to 18 months? Is just you got to figure out what works for you, man. You got to figure out what works for you. I'm doing it 30 to 45, 60 days out, and I'm managing 21 days out. So there's not really a lot of trading. Now, I do have other portfolios. So I create more to do, if you will, because there's 4 portfolios on the Tasty Trade account. So it gives me more to do, but it just depends on what your situation is. You got to kind of like figure out who you are in the market, who you want to be in the market, and cater to your strengths, right? What's your availability? What's your level of interest? What's your level of knowledge? All of those things. So I wouldn't enforce the issue. There's a lot of people that don't like to open their accounts up that often, and that's okay too. Like, there's nothing wrong with buying and holding, guys. That's what I did for years, right? But now I turned options into an income stream, and but it took me a long time, guys. I'm going on 5 years full time, and I finally landed on. There's really only 2 stocks that I want to own shares in for sure, and that's Amazon and Tesla. I wish I'd have known that on day one, right? Save me a lot of time. Everything else, I want to sell options around stocks that I'm very, very interested in, like Riot and SoFi, because the premiums are great. I feel like they got huge upside that I can participate indirectly with selling puts and calls and buying some timely leaps as well, because the opportunity presents itself. And I like the price points of those stocks. So it's pretty capital efficient to take a calculated gamble on some leaps. So, it is what it is. Anyway, I mean, I appreciate you guys. I was able to spend some time with you guys this Sunday. What's your target price on Tesla to purchase shares? Probably 225. I was saying 200, but since I've had success selling these options for a little while now on Tesla, because I went real big on the position, now I've kind of increased it to like 225, maybe even 230. Give me the rest of those 3,500 shares, and I'm good. So I just feel like the portfolio looks really, really sexy, right? Like 10,000 shares of Amazon, 10,000 shares of Tesla, if I can get it there, and then give me 100,000 shares of TSOL. That gives me the green light to be able to continue at the level of aggression that I am with Tesla. And then the premiums on TSLA are absolutely sick as well. So it is what it is. Yeah, I've been watching Tom on Tasty Trade. Really enjoy your show. I learned so much when I watched those guys. I realized that there's a whole lot I just don't know still. So anyway, I got to get rocking and rolling, man. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Y'all can do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, that whole deal. I'd appreciate each and every one of you guys. Give me a follow on X. It's at TJ the Wheel Deal. Anyway, I got to get rocking and rolling. TJ the Wheel Deal signing off. As always, Mayor Sky, stay blue, stock screen. Peace out. God bless you guys.